Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Comics Evolve, where we discuss all things around comics media culture with your hosts, Andy, Jarian, and Alex.
Welcome to Comics Evolve with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Monty Harry.
We're joined by Monty today. Alex is again a little bit busy, so we've subbed him in, sub Monty in. How are you, Monty? All right?
Can't complain. Always a pleasure to be here. Thanks, guys, for having me.
You're very welcome, mate. Very welcome. It's good to have you back. We're here for a specific reason today. We are going to be previewing Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It's out next Wednesday, I think, at the earliest. I've got my tickets booked for next Saturday. I'm really excited to see it, actually. Lots of good things look like they're going to be going on in this film. So let's begin our chat. Monty, what are your early expectations for this movie?
So, so first of all, what my main, let's start broad, right? I feel that generally speaking with the MCU right now, there's been, a level of disappointment. The true believers, the true fans, we're right along with it. We're loving the ride, but it's kind of become a little bit cool to kind of hate on Marvel a little bit. There's a little couple of kinks in the armor, so to speak, and whatnot. I think this is the movie that shuts everyone up and is gonna, turn everything around. I think you're gonna see really high critic reviews. I think that I have a lot of high expectations for this movie. James Gunn, amazing director. They've got this cast down. They've got a rhythm going. From a lot of the rumors, we were hearing that multiple people are going to not be with us anymore after this movie. As we know, Drax is done, per his contract and per his, wants to move on. So based on those things from a macro kind of perspective, I think we're going to see a really great movie. It's probably going to be, it's going to have that humor. I think it's going to have another really great soundtrack.
Yep.
Like they usually do, which I'm very much looking forward to. And I think that we get some tearjerker moments, some sad stuff, but I think ultimately it's a movie that is probably well connected into everything that's going on from a cosmic perspective, and then sets us up for either maybe a rebooted or future type of Guardians, or maybe the Guardians kind of separate into something else. But I think it's going to be a very pivotal and very important point in the MCU history.
Yeah, sure. Jarian, what are your early thoughts on this?
I definitely think there's going to be some deaths. I definitely think we're going to get a new Guardians team. It seems like it's setting up for a team of maybe Groot, Cosmo, Mantis, Nebula, and then maybe some new people join the team. Who knows? Maybe we get a Nova tease at the end of this. Maybe Adam Warlock becomes part of the team. Maybe at the end of this, he goes from foe to friend. But definitely I think that we're not going to see any more of Quill. Drax is done. And Rocket. I think Rocket. Yeah, the marketing. If you look at the three films, the first film, it was Groot. You kind of get to see the logos, the colors. The second one, it was Yondu, the colors there. And then now here with this one, it does look like this is Rocket's story, his kind of last hurrah in the MCU.
Sure. I like what you said there, Monty, about the cast, because this is a really well-established cast now, isn't it? This is a cast. So some of the movies that we've had recently and some of the shows that we've had recently, all about, we've had some new characters. New beginnings. Even with established characters, they've been introducing other new big characters within those movies as well, where this is a very established cast that's been around for years in the MCU, been in lots of stories, in lots of different movies. And I think, like you said, I think it's just it's a bit more settled, isn't it? Same director, it seems like they're not trying to, so with Ant-Man, with Quantumania, they were introducing Kang, weren't they? That was Kang's. I mean, I know we'd seen him at the end of Loki, but really and truly, They were introducing him in Quantum Mania.
Yep.
So there was a big task there. It wasn't just Ant-Man 3. It was like, this is Kang's introduction into the MCU, where this doesn't have, okay, we're getting Adam Warlock, we're getting High Evolutionary, we might get a couple of other characters, but really this is still the Guardians' third movie. It's their trilogy, it's James Gunn's trilogy, and it is settled.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a lot of difference, and I think that's going to make difference going into the movie as well. I think us as viewers will feel more settled with it because we'll know where we stand.
Yeah.
I have a couple of small news things too for this movie that might change some thoughts as well. So post-credit scenes are confirmed by Gunn via his Instagram. There is not a post-credit scene. There are two. So there are two post-credit scenes for this one. Gunn also confirmed via Twitter that Bradley Cooper isn't alone in voicing Rocket. Voice duties on young Rocket are split between Bradley, adolescent Rocket, Sean Gunn, young Rocket, and Noah Raskin, baby Rocket. So we're going to see a couple stages of Rocket's life in this film, and probably going to get his origin story. I'm not going to talk about the clip because Andy said I'm not going to watch that clip.
Yeah, I don't want to watch that.
But there is a clip that showed you some very deep history of Rockets and so forth. Then Linda
thinks for sure that he's going to get killed because it's they don't build you up like that unless they're going to take the rug out from under you. They always do it like that.
And then we have another person playing multiple roles in the MCU. So Linda Cardinelli, who is Laura Barton, she's the voice of Lila the Otter in this film.
Yes.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
And then Zoe Saldana basically wants Gamora recast after her MCU exit. So it doesn't sound like Gamora is going to die, but it does sound like, because they already killed her once, pretty much. But it does sound like Zoe Saldana is done with the role. She says, the one thing I would not want is for Gamora to go away. She's been such an impactful character for fans, and especially female fans and young female fans. I would love for Marvel to figure out a way to find the next generation of actors that can incarnate these characters and give them this immortality that fans generally keep coming back to. And with that, she announces her retirement from the MCU. Says, I don't think this is the end for the Guardians. It is the end for me for Gamora. So,
wow.
I've always been not suspicious. I don't mean suspicious, but I dare say, I said this to somebody about Chris Evans potentially coming back as Steve Rogers, and somebody said, "Oh, but didn't Chris Evans say that he was done with the MCU?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I dare say, at one point, Mark Hamill said he was done playing Luke Skywalker in 1990.
One second. We have somebody join us today.
What's up, guys?
Better late than never. What's up, Alex?
How are y'all? Sorry about being a little bit late. I do apologize. Got hung up with work. So
No worries.
No problem.
Better late than never, Alex. Better late than never. Good to see you. So we were just saying, I was talking to somebody about Chris Evans coming back as Steve Rogers.
I think it was me on one of the posts.
Probably was, and I, he said, "Oh no, I'm not coming back as Captain America," which I think is cryptic anyway, because he probably isn't coming back as Captain America. He'll probably come back as Steve Rogers, but that's not my point here. My point here was, I dare say someone like Mark Hamill said, "I'm not coming back as Luke Skywalker," and I dare say Harrison Ford said, "I'm not coming back as Indiana Jones." And given enough time, and given the right project, and given whatever other circumstances, they could potentially be back one day. That's like saying I'm never gonna play golf again after. Do you know what I mean? And then 10 years later, you then go back and play golf. So I perfectly understand Zoe. Yeah, this is it. I perfectly understand Zoe Saldana saying, "Look, I'm done for the time being. I want to go and explore other things, do other things, and be a person." I don't know if she's got any children or got a partner. She might want to explore starting a family or something like that. So, let's not put a complete dead end on it. She may well be back sometime in the future. You never know. This thing isn't going away anytime soon. So, and
she also has 2 to 3 more Avatar films to do. So she's been part of the 3 biggest franchises in history. She's been a part of.
$1 billion franchise.
Yeah, her pockets aren't empty. So she could ride off in the sunset even after she's done with this and Avatar and be fine. And I think she does have a partner and possibly young kids as well.
Yeah. So what do we think that means for that character then? Do you think that means she gets killed off in this movie? Does that mean that she maybe ends up in some dimension, or falls into something where it's like or goes into a coma, something where she's like on ice or in the
I could see her maybe just riding off in the sunset. After Endgame, I don't think they're going to kill her off again. It does appear that at the beginning of this film, she is leading the Ravagers now. So maybe that she kind of just goes off with the Ravagers after this film. We don't see that part again. Because like I said, I think we're going to get a new team dynamic after this film. And maybe we'll see her maybe do cameos or maybe not come back until Secret Wars.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like in this movie, she really wants nothing to do with Quill. So, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, I feel like at the end of this, it's going to be like, hey, let's get past this and move on. And I'm just going to go ride off and go do something else, hop in a ship and I'm gone. And I'm back to what I was doing probably before. So,
yeah, sure. I looking at Gamora's sort of history, I'm wondering, like the history that we've already seen a Gamora from another timeline. So is that what Zoe Saldana's talking about? Maybe a Gamora from another timeline, or another universe that could bring in a different style of Gamora. Maybe she's saying about a new actress playing her or whatever. So I wonder whether and it ties into the multiverse theme that we've got at the moment.
Yeah, because one thing I noticed was that in the trailers, we've seen kind of Quill. Whereas he was kind of like Gamora, like all on her. Like all we've seen in the trailers is him kind of like moving towards Nebula, maybe. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's just more of like a friendship, which is probably what they're gonna do. But I've seen more chemistry with them than in any way, shape, or form than between Gamora and Quill since before Endgame.
I also think it's like really big too. I mean, she was in that episode of What If that they pretty much scrapped that they're going to also bring out too. So, I mean, like, it's also kind of one of those things, like, Gamora is pretty popular. Like, everybody loves Gamora. I really like that character, So, like, I feel like it's like, even if they don't use her, say, in the MCU, they can still do plenty with her and, What If and other, stuff.
Yeah, so she could mean something like that, actually, as well, to be fair, couldn't she? Yeah, when she says about keeping that character alive. Yeah, for sure.
Good point.
Speaking of Nebula, she's completely turned. She's now a fully fledged part of the team, isn't she? Fully fledged, fully, indoctrinated member of the Guardians, and it'll be interesting to see her story. I wonder where that leaves her as well. I think she's probably gonna survive after this, but it's interesting to see that. She's gone on that sort of redemption arc. I mean, I don't think she was ever truly bad, was she?
No.
She's always had that. You've always had that sort of soft spot for her, because of the way that Thanos treated her.
Yeah, and it looks like she's got, gotten a nice little upgrade there with her arm. I'm sure that comes courtesy of Rocket, the weapons master himself. So I see them building her. I don't see her leaving or anything like that, and looking forward to how that character grows for sure.
I love that scene in the trailer where she is like basically standing in the background and Quill's basically explaining like everything that's happened, and then like he finishes and she's like, mostly true. You left out some stuff, because it's just like just a dry sense of humor. Like that's why she's like such a great character,
Yeah, her and Drax are masters of that. I love that about those two characters.
And there's such a dynamic between the characters, the Guardians, isn't there? You have got her and Drax that are like that. You've got Rocket, who's just like really brash and just upfront and will just say anything. You got Quill, who tries to humor everything away. You got Gamora, who just doesn't want any kind of humor at all. Nothing's funny at all. So I think there's and then you got Groot just saying I'm Groot all the time. So there's such a nice dynamic between the group, isn't there? That I think there's a little bit for everybody to kind of laugh at. So I can't wait to see that group again on screen as it happens. It's exciting. Adam Warlock.
Yeah.
What's happening with Adam Warlock? I mean, I did see a little rumor. I don't know whether Jarian's got any more news on this, but I did see that he was only going to have 10 minutes of screen time, which doesn't actually sound like a lot. But when you consider, I think T'Challa had like 11 minutes of screen time in Civil War, and it seemed like he was on screen for a lot longer than 11 minutes. Yeah, but it was only like 11 minutes. So although Adam Warlock's only going to apparently get 10 minutes screen time, again, Jarian, I don't know if you've heard anything on that lines.
I haven't seen as far much screen time. I'm sure more will come out this week since the U.S. premiere is going to happen here pretty soon, and probably get some of the critics. Oh, actually, some of the critics has already come out, I think, but we'll see probably more of the critics' reviews of it. So yeah.
Yeah. So what do we? Sorry, go ahead, Alex.
I know. I was just gonna say. I feel like a lot of that has to do with like even T'Challa is a good reference. You were talking about screen time. Like with Adam Warlock, we may not get a lot of him on screen time, but a lot of it is presence.
Yeah.
It's about the presence on screen. And I feel like T'Challa was like one of those characters where like you would feel him in other scenes, even though he wasn't in other scenes with his presence on screen. You know, so it's like one of those things with Adam Warlock is even though he may not be on screen, it's like his presence should be felt.
Yeah,
that's a nice way of putting it.
And to piggyback on that, what I was going to say is that there's ways to kind of make it feel like he's present. Like if they do a lot of explanation on like his backstory and the purpose for him being created, and his connection to the Sovereign and his connection to the High Evolutionary, and like there's a lot of like he can be being talked about a lot and being featured and kind of have that backstory being developed, and it feels like he's there half the movie, and really you only see him for a fraction of it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see too if he's actually tied to the High Evolutionary, because last time we first introduced him was the end of Guardians, and he was in the cocoon, with Aisha. So I wonder if if they fully got him to work, or if it failed and then they had to go to the High Evolutionary. Or does the High Evolutionary infiltrate the Sovereign and take them out and steal him? So it's interesting to see, where that relationship happens between, if there is one, between High Evolutionary and Adam Warlock.
Yeah,
sure. I reckon the former there. I reckon that they kind of employ the High Evolutionary to help bring him to life.
Mm-hmm.
If they haven't already done that, like if they hadn't already set that up, in Guardians 2.
Or maybe they do bring him to life, but the High Evolutionary enhances him to have more weapons, that kind of stuff, more power. Because remember, he was born with the Soul Stone, right? So those are gone. So it'd be interesting to see what his power set is and what all he can do without being tied to the Soul Stone.
How do we think Will Poulter's going to do in the role?
So one more thing. Let me just add one more thing to the last part. I was just going to say, I think one major part is if they do a tie for him as the High Evolutionary, like being part of a creator, like making a more evolved version of the Sovereign or something like that, that can kind of play into Rocket's story here. So we have like some story at the end where like Rocket is the one that turns Adam, like, when he's coming at everybody, he's like, I've been in your shoes, stops him. And I kind of feel like we might see maybe some kind of very powerful scene like that, where
because you do hear that. Yeah, that is in one of the trailers where they're talking, where he's explaining about what the High Evolutionary does and his obsession with just power, and saying that he wants the perfect form, but in reality it's just like a power trip kind of thing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Will Poulter. I mean, I've seen him in a couple of things. Going back to when he was a kid, because he was in the Chronicles of Narnia. He was in the third one of them when he was very young, and I saw him in.
Was he Maze Runner?
I'm not sure. Yeah, he might have been in that as well. Yeah, as a young lad, but he was in a great movie about Chicago, and he was in that, and that was excellent. And I think he's quite a good actor actually, and I'd be interested to see what kind of level of what his character's like in this. I mean, I know what Adam Warlock in the comics, he's a very sort of straight character, isn't he? I'm wondering how he's going to play this out on live action.
He's kind of solemn, in the comic books, just coming from that perspective. He's got, because it's like he's kind of created, and then he's kind of abandoned, and then he's like beat up by Thor, and then he's wandering the galaxy, and then he's flying around, and he doesn't, kind of can't really trust anyone. It's kind of a sympathetic, but also like a, kind of like a Christ-like, character. He even gets crucified at one point in the comics. So, there's a lot of, I think, emotional, heartstrings they can pull at with that character. And I think that, Will, at this point, in his career, I think he's got enough acting chops to really bring that to life and play that straight. He's kind of a very straightforward, kind of almost like Vision.
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
I compare him to Vision a lot in terms of like he understands it, but he's not fully there. You know, like he understands humanity and emotions, and he has, I guess, some semblance or copy of that of his own, but it's not the same as you and me and all of us.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, you look at Paul Bettany when he took on the role of Vision, and you're like, yeah, I trust it. No, I love Will Poulter. I think he's really good. But you know when Paul Bettany got that role, you're like, yeah, that'll be fine. Like no problem at all there. I just don't know. You knew that Paul Bettany would do that job. Do you know that Will Poulter can do this job? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, he was in the Maze Runner, and he actually plays a pretty good role in the Maze Runner. So I could see some of that role coming over into this role. Just some of the things he does, because he's kind of. If I remember the role he was the older kid in the camp, and he was the one that was kind of the tough kid, the one kind of trying to lead them or trying to get them kind of, corralled up type of thing. So I could possibly see some of that spill over into this role for Adam Warlock.
You know, if you want to see kind of a bit of his like versatility. There's a movie on Netflix called Bandersnatch, which is a Black Mirror choose your own adventure. I think that for me, that's what kind of solidifies Will as having the acting chops to handle this role is because in that it's choose your own adventure. So there's so many different looks. That thing goes from like a very straight arrow answer to a suicide ending to a it's a sci-fi ending. Like there's it's all across the board, all different directions that he has to go and almost different characters kind of that he has to play and different directions that he plays out. So I think he has the versatility to make it happen.
Yeah. I can't really speak, I feel like, to him as an actor because I just I don't think I've seen a lot of stuff with him. So I can't really so I can't really speak to the quality of how I think he'll play the character based on his acting, I guess, premise. But from the perspective of what I see in the trailer, I think he kind of gets it right. It looks like Adams kind of comes out right off the bat and he's thinking more logically, not really emotionally. It's kind of just go point in this direction, go do this. I think he'll end up probably being a brainwash kind of drone for the High Evolutionary in this movie that's sort of working with the Sovereign to go after the Guardians, kind of trying to push Rocket back. And I think he kind of gets that kind of I guess gravitas right in the trailer from what I've seen so far of he's just kind of just he's just a brute force that's just going to be there and he's not going to be stopped. And he probably won't say much, I feel like, for a large majority of this movie. A lot's going to be communicated from silence.
He's a character of very few words anyway, isn't he, Adam Warlock? Unless he starts going on a monologue, but he's not just a chatter, is he? He doesn't just chat. So I see your point.
I kind of think of him like the Silver Surfer. I mean, when the Silver Surfer talks, you normally want to hear what he's got to say because the Silver Surfer is just not just going to talk just about anything, So,
do you think he'll come out of the box kind of like what is it? His alter ego, Magus,
Magus.
Magnus. You think he'll come out of the box like that, but then kind of switch over to be more as a ally?
I think I've been thinking about that kind of a bit because that's a huge part, in the comics of Adam Warlock and who he is and what they end up, doing with that character and, that duality. I think that might be better left for another. I don't know if they'll go into that, in this movie because I feel like you could do a whole movie just on him. At that aspect of him being the bad guy, but he's really the good guy, kind of like Sentry in the Void, and a few other characters that have that duality. So I'm not sure if they'll touch on that or not.
And if they save that for its own movie, we can see him making Thanos his bitch.
Yeah,
that's basically what he does in that story where Thanos comes back. He's like Thanos. He's like his lackey, isn't he? And that just goes to show how powerful the Magus is. Yeah.
Or maybe we'll see that inner conflict in the film, and that's more of what the High Evolutionary is kind of forcing him to do, but his subconscious or his other conscious is kind of making him not want to do that, and there's maybe some inner turmoil we might see with him in the movie. They could touch onto that in the film.
That's a good idea. Speaking of High Evolutionary,
kind of.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's a good idea. Speaking of High Evolutionary, what do we reckon he's up to?
So I was giving some thought to this before we got on here, and I think that so if you look back to the original of how Adam Warlock was introduced, he was created by that kind of like evil scientist secret society, but he was like basically there was basically a quality about him where he was so bright that you couldn't look at him, so they had to kidnap Alicia Masters, which was Ben Grimm from the Fantastic Four's blind girlfriend.
Yeah, Master's niece.
Yeah, exactly. So they brought her in because she's blind, so she could look at him and like kind of give them, the lay of the land and like, kind of communicate with him and then, deal with that. So I think maybe, it's a combination of that plus what we were just talking about before, where he's brought on maybe to perfect what the Sovereign couldn't get right, because he's been sitting here in this cocoon all this time. Why is it taking so long? Where's he been at? What's he been up to? Why is it taking, because essentially at this point now in Marvel time chronology, what's it been, 10 years?
Yeah.
Since we saw him over that. So like, it doesn't take that long to bake a cake. You know what I mean? Like, so what are we, what are we waiting on?
Or maybe did they have multiple well, I guess they couldn't do that because they said that was the last of their power when they had that cocoon. So I was thinking maybe they had multiple failures before they got it right. But
and then
that probably not. Yeah,
it,
But I don't know if that happened or not because they said that was like the last of their power to build him at the end of a Guardians movie. So
yeah, I almost feel like we could have a very interesting situation here where he could be making beings and kind of like trying to do something where maybe potentially at one day he flips the switch and he controls all these beings.
Yeah.
So you see like him like building this like world of like half like
human animals.
Yeah, I was gonna say human or something else, and it's almost like that's his little world. It's made to be almost like the human Earth world, So, I mean, like, I think we might see a scene where he's maybe abducted from Earth. Maybe somebody brings him, like, off Earth. Maybe this puts him on this journey of, like, they kind of help push him in the right direction. And that puts him on this journey. And maybe he just gets out of control. And maybe that's his plan is to make a bunch of creatures. Because, I mean, like, even Rocket had a purpose. He was a pilot, like, So, like, maybe, like, their utilitarianism gets kind of translated into being like an army for him,
Or what if he's like a space explorer that got off Earth and crash landed on this planet with a bunch of animals and started experimenting on them, and he needed a pilot, so he made Rocket, and that's was maybe a way he got back into space, maybe, or something like that. So yeah, it does look like we're gonna have that whole planet of human animals, which leaves me to wonder, if we're gonna get Squirrel Girl as a tease in this as well.
Yeah, so I'm definitely interested to see how they introduce Counter Earth too, because now we have an entire Earth, which we've seen. They have houses and lawns and cul-de-sacs and driveways. It looks just like your average suburban neighborhood in the States or in the UK or in any like industrialized country, but it's populated by people that look like pandas and rabbits and raccoons. So like how like that didn't just appear overnight, and also another thing too is like, and I brought this kind of to show that is that this is Galactus right here that he's fighting. That's the High Evolutionary in the comics. He goes toe to toe with Galactus, like not necessarily wins, but he fought on a level with Galactus. So like, how does he amass that power? Is he going to be that powerful? And how did he get there? I'm very curious.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they make him the big cosmic threat for the time being.
That would be cool. I really like seeing Counter Earth in this trailer too, because it gives me the vibes that like Rocket was like almost like creation and then tossed to the side because he's no longer like one of the top tier creations. Like all those people look more advanced than Rocket was, like they're like more normal human size,
more
like,
humanoid.
Yeah. So,
and that's par for the course with the High Evolutionary from a comics perspective. He just is constantly going on and on and on and trying to build up and evolve himself and the creatures that he creates. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, interesting. So we've looked at a few of the Guardians. What about some of the other ones that we haven't spoke about? Groot. for example. There's not a great deal to speak about him. He's obviously now like I guess he's kind of like a mid-20s Groot now. He's a bit buff, isn't he? Yeah, he's a bit juiced up, but he's still got that baby face a little bit.
Yeah.
He's
got his size back though.
Yeah,
he has got his size back. Yeah, I mean, do you know what? I saw a clip from the first Guardians the other day, and I really like that old gnarly sort of tree-looking face that had bits growing off it that you'd have to break off, and I'd liked him as a teenager. I thought he looked great, but I'm not so keen on the sort of this sort of buff group with this kind of still like a baby face, but yeah, he's kind of like in between for me. He's kind of neither here nor there, know. So I'm hoping that he'll get a little bit more rough around the edges as he goes forward. Maybe after this movie.
From the chat here, real quick, Jimmy Clouds joined us today. Hey, Jamie. She says, "Hi guys, loving all this comics background on High Evolutionary and Counter Earth." Nice.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah. Any other thoughts on Groot? Anybody?
I think he's safe. My only thought.
Yeah, he's a CGI character. He'll be around for as long as they can do the CGI.
The easiest payday in Vin Diesel's entire career. Like, come on, like you say one line different ways, and you don't even have to be on camera ever. Like he would, if I were him, there's no reason to ever give that role up. There's no reason to ever delete that character. Like he should just as long as it's an MCU, there should be Groot.
Yeah,
I love that meme where it's like say the line and it's just him standing there and it's like I am Groot and it's like millions of dollars. Here you go.
I saw him. Vin Diesel was at the European Gala at Disneyland the other day, and he was like standing there loving it. Arms outstretched, all the fans cheering, and I'm like, come on. It's the guy that says 3 words for the entire movie, and he's standing there walking down the red carpet, and there's Chris Pratt like sweating, he's just Vin Diesel just loving it, but I think he's safe. I think we've seen it. He's pretty safe. I mean, he basically died in the first one and he's still safe.
Yeah.
So he's safe. Drax, we think that he's going. However, do we see that we're going to see? Do we think we're going to see a little bit of solace from Drax? Yeah, a bit of backstory, or maybe even just a little bit of good news for him. Do you think we'll see his daughter? Do you think we'll see Moondragon? I think she could be a fairly good shoe-in for a new Guardians team.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say that. I absolutely think that we'll see at least a tease, or at least hear of the existence of of Moondragon. Maybe part of his reason that he's sacrificing himself or that he ends up dying is because of the fact that he has that daughter. You know what I mean? Maybe she comes back. Like who knows? Like what'll be? But I really think that Moondragon is going to be someone that they bring into the MCU, hopefully in this movie.
Yeah,
I think it would be awesome if they had Drax die at Adam Warlock's hand, and in like his final moments he has like a little highlight reel, like a flashback of like him and his daughter or something like that, and then he like says something or mutters something, and whoever survives this is like, Drax had a daughter, I need to go find them and tell them that Drax is dead. And that leads to something maybe with her being brought into maybe more stories down there.
And that could be a post-credit scene too, of we actually see her on camera.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and we've I'd quite like to see Phil Lavelle as well. I think they should. Yeah, I think they should. That they almost come as a pair, don't they? In the sort of modern stories, and I think that I'd like to see those two together.
There is a rumor that Phil Lavelle is in the film.
Yep.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The female. Yeah, she's the female Quasar. That's I just saw that recently, like a video trailer breakdown, and they showed like kind of like a blonde girl in one point, and they froze the frame, and they were very much thinking that she's that, and she's going to be the wielder of the other quantum bangle that is, obviously the pair to Miss Marvel's bangle, which could then mean that maybe we have a tie-in with the Marvels.
Yeah, because I know in the Marvel trailer, the main villain, she had the other bangle on her hand. So I wonder if she gets that from her, if that's going to end up being happening in Guardians.
That's a really nice little segue into my next piece, which was I was going to say about do we think that this is going to connect in with anything coming up? Because obviously we've got the Marvels, later on this year, which again is a bit of a cosmic story. So, and I didn't even think about that actually, Jarian. Monty, I'd already thought of Phil of being in this, but I never actually thought of the quantum bangle, which makes a lot of sense. Probably because, like what Jarian had just said, I'd already thought about it being on what's the actress's name? Zoe
Miss Marvel.
Yeah, I'd already thought it being on her wrist, but that's actually a really good point. So that makes me now think. I wonder whether there's any link between this and that movie. Not any real, strong links, but little nods.
Yeah, I don't know, because Gunn over his movie career hasn't really tied the Guardians to anything else. It's always been more the Guardian story. So the only ties I could see them doing at the end of this is setting up new characters, but not tying into the multiverse saga at all. And even with Gunn, has even interviews recently has said he didn't like the Guardians showing up in Thor. He said that Taika did him a favor with that, and then even some of the stuff that happened like in Endgame and Infinity War, he didn't like what happened with the Guardians. So it seems like he wants to keep them more self-contained to that universe, to the Guardians thing, and not have them be involved in the overarching thing. So
I think it would be really cool if we saw maybe something like maybe a post-credit scene just throwing like a curveball to this whole thing, where it's like High Evolutionary was on Earth but would have never got off Earth had it would have not been for Kang the Conqueror like showing up and giving him the ability to get off Earth. And being like a part of his plan down the road. So like we find out like Rocket would have never been made had it would have not been for Kang the Conqueror, like getting him off Earth.
That and that makes a lot of sense too, because we just saw the post-credit scene with Victor Timely and Herbert Wyndham, the High Evolutionary, is kind of a little bit past that time, but he's kind of tied in with Mr. Sinister. And we're not really necessarily into X-Men yet. Maybe we get there with this. Maybe that's a segue they take from this. Or maybe it's someone like Kang playing the Mr. Sinister role of like getting the High Evolutionary his start, and then he takes it from there and just keeps going.
Yeah. That probably, Monty and Alex are probably the best tie-in for this saga, but I don't see anything else major for this saga. The current saga.
Yeah. Okay. So on to the big one then. Who do we think's gonna croak in this movie? I mean, we've all got our ideas. I mean, and I know this. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and I said, and I think you guys all know this. I've said like, I want to come out of this movie like in tears. I just want to be in bits. I just want to be in bits. I don't necessarily want anybody to die. I just want that kind of emotion. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like he needs to die, she needs to die. I just want to feel that real raw. Like, do you know what? I'm actually really upset. And
I think you will. And I think that's why, I was saying before that I think this will be the movie that everyone's like, oh, undeniable. This is Marvel is back, or, Marvel still has it, or whatever the case may be. I think this is going to be one of those ones kind of like Shang-Chi level where everyone likes it.
Yeah. So along those lines, I'm sort of thinking, Rocket, because again, it's like the worst of both worlds, isn't it? It's like losing somebody you really like and losing a pet. Nobody. That's not a good combination. That's not for your emotions. That's just a terrible combination. So I think that's not necessarily a shoe-in, because we've seen recently in the Star Wars universe, we all thought we knew exactly where the Mandalorian was going for the last episode, and then it just went, nope, we're not going to do any of that, and everyone went, oh, okay. So maybe we're all sitting there thinking, yeah, Rocket's definitely dead. He's definitely dead, and then he's not. I don't know. But I mean, any thoughts on anybody else? Star-Lord, maybe? Cool.
Yeah, I actually think Star-Lord's gonna kick it in this movie. I didn't until I watched Chris Pratt talk about his role and the journey up until this point, and it looked like he was about to start crying. And I was like, oh, okay. And it seemed like he got kind of just really kind of solemn, and I was like, wow. Yeah, I feel like he basically kind of his demeanor just gave me that maybe something happens to Star-Lord in this. And I think it would kind of make sense that maybe something happens to him or Mantis, because with the holiday special, they just set that up, and I was like, they're setting this up to make this hurt. They're gonna make this hurt when we lose somebody. Like, oh, I just found out Peter Quill is my brother, and now I lose Peter Quill in the next movie. Like, and I feel like maybe that could put maybe Mantis on like a new Star-Lord-ish kind of path, like trying
the whole
to
cosmic story that they have with her in the comics. Yeah.
So like maybe that could like point her in a direction. But I also think, Drax is going to die. And I think those are the big three for me is Rocket, Drax, and maybe Peter Quill. And I didn't even think Peter Quill until like I saw, Pratt's reaction. So
was the, someone correct me, was it the end of the Infinity story where Quill and Nova basically like sacrifice themselves at the end? It's like a big blaze of glory. And they get a statue made for them at the end of it, or Infinity. Maybe it wasn't that.
I don't think it's that story, but I know what you're talking about.
I know Nova for sure. I don't know.
Quill was definitely with him, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what story it was, but the two of them, it was like this big blade. They were kind of like joking with each other as they were going in to do it. They were like, yeah, well, this is the only way. And they were like, yeah, haha, it's great, and they just did it. And I think that for me, that's how Quill's got to go out. He's got to go out.
Absolutely.
There's got to be a quip in there as he goes, and I think everyone would love that. That's perfect for Quill.
And I love those moments too. I mean, we saw like there's been like when Johnny Storm dies like that, Hyperion and Thor die like that, going after the Beyonders in Secret Wars. So I think those types of moments make for really good cinema, really good, because like we've seen it before. Like remember the Executioner in at the end of Thor 2.
Yeah.
His last stand, like last stands are really like really powerful, popular, cool scene. So I think that I think we definitely get that too.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it would be really interesting if we saw, say, like maybe a line of like Quill make a reference, like if we do find out the high evolutionaries from Earth, like, oh, you're from Earth too. Like, one of those, like what Iron Man said to Quill when he found out, he's like, you're from Earth. Like, yeah, like, well,
I'm from
yeah,
Missouri.
that's where we're from. Yeah, like it'd be one of those things like he'd be like, well, where are you from? I'm from Missouri, kind of type of thing. So you could see kind of like a very similar thing happen to both of them and how different they ended up, is kind of my point.
So I definitely think Drax is going to die. I think Rocket's going to die. If we do see Quill die, which I haven't thought about Quill moving forward, how they could do this. But that whole thing with Nova and Quill and the Blaze of Glory, that's going to be probably Rocket and Quill in the Blaze of Glory if that happens. Now, they could also take Quill, like I was saying, they could introduce or tease Nova in the post-credits, and Quill could transform into someone who helps rebuild the Nova Corps, and we get a proper Quill in the MCU. Not Chris Pratt, because Chris Pratt could have been upset because it's his last time as Quill, but we could have someone come in as Quill, be that proper Captain America, Steve Rogers, Cyclops, Scott Summers, like more military style Nova Quill in the Star-Lord in the MCU, and go that route and kind of rebuild the Nova Corps with Nova. So I can see them going that route. Other two, I think we can see some Ravagers die in this film because Sylvester Stallone and those Ravagers that we saw at the end of the second film, some of those hitters are coming back. And, some of those are also older actors too, as well. So I could see some Ravager deaths happening also. From Jamie, she goes, I'm bringing a box of extra soft Kleenex because we're going to lose Rocket and Drax for sure. So she's on, Rocket and Drax. But yeah, I don't know, that Gamora quote, I don't know. I think we'll see Gamora lost or go off with the new Ravagers. I don't think we're going to see Mantis or Nebula. I don't think Nebula really can die because we saw she basically goes in pieces in Infinity War. Yeah, so she, she's more robot than machine now, or more machine than person now. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. And we know Cosmo is probably off limits because they just kind of introduced Cosmo and gave him the voice now, or her the voice now. So
yeah, I think that with the Ravagers there, because we saw multiple, like if you look, I don't remember all their names because there's so many of them. But if you look at the Guardians of the Galaxy over the years, they've had obviously multiple different rosters. Are characters I've seen in other Guardians of the Galaxy older comics, and they're Ravagers.
He's
So
there. He's
so
still there.
yeah, so we might have some we might have some shuffling around, because like the roster that kind of that was from like 2008 ish is Phyla-Vel's on it, Moondragon is on it, Groot obviously is on it, so they definitely have some room for some different tie-ins and stuff that they can do.
Or speaking of one last death, Kraglin's dead. I think
Mhm.
Kraglin's done because Sean Gunn is probably done with this film too with Marvel. So I think Kraglin's definitely one to die.
Either that, or he goes and stays with like one of his wives on one of those planets or something. Like something like that. Happy ending for him.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm wondering. Somebody said the other day that, or it might have even been today. What if they all die? Like, what if it's all it's all a dream sort of thing at the end? That's not what I mean. But what if they all go out in that Star-Lord Nova type blaze of glory sort of thing? Because
totally possible.
Yeah, it is like you're thinking about this. Like I said, Zoe Saldana sounds like she's done with the role.
Mm-hmm.
What Alex said about how Chris Pratt was acting, what Dave Bautista said about Drax, the promotion that they've done around Rocket, is Karen Gillian, like, is she sort of going, okay, well, I'll come back and do more of these movies, or is she sort of done now? Does she want to go off and do some different things? So we're going to be like, are they all just going to go, no, we'll all go.
Basically a Suicide Squad ending.
Yeah, just like a big
I could see that
like,
with him wrapping it up for them. Yeah, but because Karen Gillian has said she wants to be Poison Ivy in the DC.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, like I was thinking about it today, and I was like, the most interesting part is if you lose Quill, you lose, say, like Rocket and Drax. Think about the team members that are going to be left there. You're going to have like Mantis, Nebula, Cosmo,
Groot.
Gamora's probably going to go off, and then it's pretty much like they're like the main Guardians now. So you almost have to bring people in. You almost have to bring new characters in, or maybe they take a new name. Maybe they're, the Annihilators or something, I don't know. Like, they could just take a new name and then maybe form a new team, and then we get a new franchise with a new name.
From the chat here from Jamie, because Nebula bonded with other Avengers during the blip, I see her moving towards reuniting with maybe Bruce and Carol group to stay in the Janir. Surely they can't eliminate everyone. And speaking of Carol could even be on this team,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So could Monica as well, whether she be Spectrum or Photon or the new Captain Marvel. So
we could end up getting a scene towards the end, where if that did happen, if they all did go out in this blaze of glory, we could end up getting a scene with Sylvester Stallone's is it Sakaar or Starhawk, isn't it? That's his sort of superhero name, where he's kind of talking. We could get a post-credit scene where he's kind of talking to, you don't see who he's talking to at first, and he's kind of saying, a little bit of a take on Nick Fury, where he's sort of like, there was an idea that we'd put together, a group of people would come together to protect the galaxy. The last group of people that did that kind of, sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy. You guys here, are gonna take on that responsibility going forward. And then it kind of pans round, and you've just got this new group. You've got a new Groot there, a gnarly looking Groot again, because he's grown up again. You've got a Moondragon, you've got Phyla-Vel, you've got Adam Warlock, you've got Cosmo, you've got this kind of new team of people that have kind of a little bit Age of Ultron, end of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, at the
it was end of Age of Ultron, wasn't it? Yeah. That kind of scenario.
What if you pan and see John C. Reilly's character sitting there?
I think that would be a nice segue into Nova.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Nova could be there as well.
Like he's like the only survivor of the Nova Corps is John C. Reilly, and he kind of is the one to kind of seek out and find Richard Rider or Samuel Alexander, depending which one they do, and that kind of gets us Nova. We don't see Nova, but we get that hint that he survived, and he's maybe maybe he's glowing, right? And then that's how we get the tease on Nova, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think to move forward with it, they're going to need some like Nova. Because I don't know, I don't think Warlock's going to be on the team. He's probably going to go off somewhere on his own and kind of have that I request elaboration, white vision, regular vision moment, and kind of go off somewhere, and we'll see him come back later. I don't think he's going to be part of the team per se after this one, for at least not right away.
Yeah.
Could somebody who dies in this movie potentially be a Skrull?
Yeah, that too.
You know, like let's say that Quill was taken and replaced by a Skrull at some point, and Quill dies and he turns into a Skrull, and that would just totally just like shake up, you know, like everything. It'd be like,
I mean,
make you question it.
It is the next thing, isn't it? It is the next thing after this movie. Secret Invasion.
Yeah, Secret
Invasion.
And
that's another tie to the Marvels too, because we know we have Skrulls in the Marvels also.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and you know, to your point earlier, Jarian, about it not connecting, I think kind of maybe it will, because you know, I've always seen the way the phases break down, like, you know, phase 4 was really like akin to phase 1. And now that, you know, we're in phase 5 here, I think that phase is going to replicate kind of like what was done in phase 2 when things started to really come together. And it may not be like a huge connection, but I think you're going to see like a lot of tertiary, a lot of like loose or light tie-ins to other things. We're like, oh, that could lead to that, or oh, that leads to that, or oh, that's what that means. And then we'll see that explored in further movies.
Yeah, I guess because the first Guardians, the really main tie-in they had was the Power Stone. Yeah. Was that. The second one, I'm trying to think, anything major stick out in the second one that really had a tie into anything, because that was more of its own kind of film. So there probably will be some subtle stuff, but I don't think we're going to see anything major for this phase tie-in, though.
I really like that comparison to phase 2, because I kind of feel like that is going to happen here. I mean, phase 4 was meant to kind of introduce all these characters. Phase 5 should be like, hey, let's bring them all together and make all their stories intertwined. Phase, you know, if they choose to finish it out at phase 5, or maybe make that into a phase 6 thing where they carry some characters like maybe characters die off. However, I think it's a great way. Phase 2, I think, gets a lot of like flack for not being like a great phase, but I think it was like that entire phase was combining all the stories and setting up phase 3. So, you know, it was required. They had to do that in phase 2. So.
Yeah, it was your linking piece, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
It was like, we've got these guys, we've started something off, we need to get somewhere. Well, we can't get somewhere without doing this. You know? Yeah, for sure. Any final random thoughts? Because we want to be wrapping this up in about 8 or 9 minutes. So any random bits that we want to talk about? Music.
Oh yeah.
The music. Have we got did they did release a playlist? I'm sure they did.
I thought they did, but
yeah, they have for both movies. I'm pretty
sure.
No.
I mean, released what?
Oh, for this
third one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure.
No, I haven't heard of that yet, but I mean, I'm sure it'd be silly not to. You know.
Yeah, I mean, the first 2 have been great, haven't they? Go on, Alex. Sorry.
They almost have to have, like, what was it called? An awesome mix.
The awesome mix.
Like,
yeah.
This almost has to be awesome mix volume 3. I mean, it goes with the movie. We got volume 2 and volume 1 with the first one and the second one. So, you know, we kind of got to. But I feel like we might get some like songs on there that are going to be played in this movie that are going to be kind of like emotionally powerful songs.
Yeah. So
you know?
I got it right here.
Okay.
The reported awesome mix here for volume 3. Radiohead, Creep, Heart, Crazy on You, Rainbow, Since You've Been Gone, Space Hog, In the Meantime, Earth, Wind and Fire, Reasons, The Flaming Lips, Do You Realize, Faith No More, We Care a Lot. Man, they should have an epic. That would have been great. And a fight scene, them doing epic. E Hammock, Canoe No Carnival, Alice Cooper, I'm Always Chasing Rainbows, The Mowgli's, San Francisco, X, Poor Girl, This Is the Days, Beastie Boys, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, Florence and the Machine, Dog Days Are Over, Bruce Springsteen, Badlands, The Replacements, I Will Dare, and then Redbone, Come and Get Your Love.
I know a fair amount of those.
Yeah, and there's a place on Spotify too.
Do they give anything away, those songs, at all? I don't think they really. Not really.
No, and they kind of weren't meant to. They just like they fit in seamlessly into whatever's going on, but I don't know that they tell the story or tell a story, just not in and of themselves.
They give like a kind of like a vibe almost of.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
you know. I think what's really interesting though is like, I mean, listening to those, like I heard that song Creep and I'm instantly thinking of like that's going to be played when like Peter Quill is like trying to talk to Gamora or whatever and won't leave her alone or something, you know. Like I was just like, oh man, like that's so fun.
I wonder if they actually played during Adam Warlock's scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that too during that song.
Him just kind of like creeping around, watching them from a distance or something, you know? Like, yeah, I mean, they totally could.
Or him checking himself out, trying to figure out what he is and what he's supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
yeah, he's almost creeping around himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything we want to just wrap up here? No.
No. Be interested to see if James Gunn pulls anything in this movie, with this being his last hurrah in the MCU.
Killing everyone. I've changed my mind. I think everyone's dead. I think everyone's dead. I really do. That's what he's going to do. He's just going to go, do you know what? I'm off. They're all dead. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to this movie. I think like Monty said, like what we said at the beginning, established cast, established, director within the trilogy, an established theme and feel to the group of actors and to the group of characters. So I think this will be a nice rounded off trilogy, this one. So yeah, looking forward to it. I'll be seeing it on Saturday next week. So I've got a fun day next Saturday. We've got the new King's coronation during the day, and then I'm going to go and see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in the evening. So I can't wait. It's going to be a great day.
I'll probably see it on Friday with my wife, probably during a day date.
I got my tickets for Sunday because I'll be out of town, and I just didn't want to be all either jet lagged or tired from my trip, and then I want to really be able to focus on it. So
yeah, sure. And we'll see how we get on with our review episode. That might have to be slightly later in the week because I know that some of us guys are a little bit busy on the early part where we would normally record next Sunday. Jaren, where can they catch us, guys?
Yep, you can find us as usual. Live on the Facebook page, live in the Facebook groups, live on Trovo, Twitch, and Twitter, all Comics Evolved. And then also we put stuff on the Instagram at Comic Evolved as well. And YouTube, and the YouTube channel where Jimmy's chatting today from.
Of course. Monty, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, man. Anytime. Love it.
Let's see if we can tie up and get you on the review episode as well. That'd be really cool, even if we have to do it slightly later in the week next week.
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll do that. And well done, Alex, for getting here. And eventually, like we said, better late than never, my friend. Better late than never. Guys, it's been a pleasure. Take care.
Take it easy.
See you guys.
Peace.